Hello, everyone. Good day. And we are super excited to have you here. Today is another beautiful Tuesday here in Angola, Africa. As you all know, my name is Valentine Awe, and I'm your host for this wonderful event. So today we have Rahman Adewale Hafiz, who will be taking us through live data with our RxJS operators. Rahman Hafiz is a Nigerian, and this is his first technical talk. So we're super excited to have you here, Rahman Hafiz, and
Thank you.
we believe that you're going to hit it really hard. So take it away.
All
No
right.
pressure, no pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen now. Uh, yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Hi everyone. My name is Rahman Adewale, and I'm here to talk about live data with RxJS. Okay. So let's begin. So what do we mean by live data? Live data basically means getting up-to-date information from the web server. So basically, what the goal of this is to be able to retrieve data as soon as it happens in terms of getting up-to-date information from the API, either by making multiple API requests, or by subscribing to subscribing to open connections that already have been established between the client and the server. So basically, so let's move to the definition of RxJS. RxJS is a framework agnostic execution library, which means that it works with different JavaScript libraries, and it helps makes our code asynchronous and callback based. It does this by using observables, which are functions that just produce data over time, either synchronously or asynchronously. Yeah. So what are the ways in which we can get live data with RxJS? So there are three methods we can use by leveraging off the operators that exist within RxJS. So the first method is known as short polling. The second method is known as long polling. And another method that we're talking about here is using WebSockets. So RxJS has a WebSockets function which returns like a WebSocket subject which you can subscribe to, basically to create an open connection between an API that is obviously a WebSocket based as well. Yeah. So what is short polling? So short polling basically means making multiple API requests over a specified number of time. So how that works is from the image that has been that is right there, you can see So I want the loop to start again. So you can see here that the client makes a request to a server, then the server responds, then the connection closes. Then that loop after that is set interval, that happens over again. That whole loop happens over again. So as you can see, this can be quite it's not the best. It doesn't sound like the best approach because of it can be quite intensive on the server, and making that many requests to just get a particular data is not really ideal or production worthy, basically. So most people use short polling just for prototyping, basically, or for demo purposes like we are doing currently. Yeah. So I would show an example of how short polling works using a live by using the Open API, the Open Weather API, by retrieving live data from uh, from them for the API. So but before that, let's move talk about long polling. Long polling, on the other hand, as soon as the client makes a request to the server, it keeps that connection open until there's a response from the server. Basically, what that means is that if there is no response from the server, the connection hangs. That there's an open connection between the client and the server before the before the connection is closed, and that process happens all over again. So you can see the difference between the short polling and long polling there, in the sense that in long polling the connection is kept open for a while until there's a positive response from the server. While in short polling, if there is a response, or I don't say response, or there's no response, or if there's a response, regardless of the outcome of what is returned by the server, it always ends that connection and creates a new connection. Long polling is better in the sense that, in this sense, because the initial connection is kept open, and you don't have to make multiple requests, which can be quite intensive on server. You don't make multiple requests to get that updated or live data. No, long polling, that initial connection that you have is still open until you get the data that you want from the server. So that's the difference between long polling and short polling there. Long polling, what you can use long polling for? You can use long polling for things like checking a status, basically, of probably a cron job that is being done by the backend. Let's say, for example, you want to upload a file, and you want the backend service is running a cron job at the back end, and you want to keep track of that cron job, basically just like get status of that cron job. Or let's say it's a transaction that you want to send to an API, and you want to just check that status. You can use that initial connection that you used to make the first request and just keep on checking the status. And once the status is what you are looking for, let's say you have a successful status, for example, that's when that's when the connection should end. So that's what long polling is. Yeah. So WebSockets. So WebSockets are a bit similar to long polling, like in the sense that the connection is always open between the client and the server. And in this communication, in this setup, the communication is sort of bi-directional, in the sense that the server and the server on the backend communicates with each other via events. Basically, sends events to the client side. So this is probably the best in terms of if especially have a data intensive app, for example, an app that requires constant or an open connection. WebSockets are sort of the best implementation in that regard, because that it provides you a low latency implementation between the client and the resource. They are mostly used for chatting applications, or basically live chats, basically like YouTube video live chats, that kind of setup. So that's what WebSockets are used for. So yeah, before moving to the examples I came up, I was able to come up with. Do you have any questions, or should we do that at the end?
Okay, Rob, you can go ahead and ask.
All right.
I was thinking that isn't long polling kind of dangerous, since the connection is open, and I guess any attacker can get the I don't know, get the time to interfere between the communication back and forth.
In long polling, you can also set the time, basically, and a time that you want that connection to be open. I think the HTTP protocol has a keep alive protocol by default in it. So I think that connection is already secure, especially if I'm making the HTTPS. These are HTTPS call. I think it's already secure in that regard, and I don't think that connection will last long enough for attackers to have access to it. Basically, I'm not very sure of the in-depth process in that, but yeah, I don't believe there will be enough time for an attacker to have access to that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Rahman. I think you can go ahead.
Okay. So let me switch to ID. Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start. So these are the three examples that I came up with. So let's start with short polling. So this is short poll, an example of short polling, like I said earlier on, that's leveraging of the open weather API. So what it does is that it makes a call. So we'll open the network tab here to sort of see how it's constantly making an API calls to the open weather API to get the live data. I want to open this side by side. So yeah. So as you can see here, every 3 seconds, I set it to make an API call to get like the live data of these various cities. Yeah, you can see it's calling for Berlin, Lagos, Amsterdam, and London continuously. As you can see, this is not an ideal approach because of the sheer intensity of just doing this alone. So what it does here is that it retrieves the data. Let me see the response. So basically, what we'll call the OpenWeather API, we get the response, and we update the UI with the response. So it's going through the code. Let's go through the code. Let me show you how it was implemented. Yeah. So short point. Yeah, code source. So over here, so now RxJS operators. That's the main topic of the conversation. So how do we use RxJS operators to carry out this short polling? So this is how we use the timer operator, first of all, to make that sequential call every 3 seconds. This 1 second here allows us to make it the call on the first try, and this allows us to make the call immediately. Sorry, this is for makes the call immediately, and this allows us to make the call every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds. So we use the switch map operator just in case. So basically, what switch map operator does is that allows to make those calls, but if there's an existing call, the previous call is cancelled. That's really how the switch map works, basically. So if the previous API call is still in progress, the new API call will cancel the old API call. So with this we call the fetch weathers, method here, which all the cities are listed in an array. So the take until here is to make sure that this ends when the service is ended. So the end this end sub basically is called when this guy is destroyed, when the service is destroyed. So we are subscribed from the end subscription here on when this service is destroyed. So in the fetch weathers method, we have a list of cities here, and each city is emitted. And as soon as what this form operator does is that it makes sure that it converts this cities array into an observable and emits those values immediately. So for example, it picks out London, it calls out London, and here we are logging out the cities calling from at the moment. So as soon as it picks out London, it passes London to this as a query parameter in this API there, and obviously we have the key that has been set up here. We have the key that has been set up here, and yeah, we have the city that has been listed in this array. basically. And this to array allows us to return all those the response we get from open weather into a single array, which is now displayed on the user interface here. On the user interface here, on user interface here, basically. So we have is a simple card. This card, this app single city is a single card that we now pass in the list of cities and their weather into as an input into that weather card, basically. And yeah, that's pretty much how we implemented the short polling. Yeah. Any questions so far?
None from me. Does anyone have questions for Rahman? I think we're good.
Okay. So let me share my screen again. So let's WebSocket. So this is an example of WebSockets. I got this example of the previous research. So what this does is that it calls like an API, because there are very few WebSocket open WebSocket APIs that I can call, so I can leverage off. So why I'm leveraging off a Bitcoin API, yeah, that returns the current status of crypto, basically. So let me show you how that works on the browser, how you can track that on the browser. So so basically from here you can see the connection that we have here. This is the API call. This API we are calling to retrieve these current Bitcoin prices, basically, over the series or over this period of time. And this shows that the connection is still open. The connection is still open at the moment. So let me show you the implementation. How it was implemented. So yeah, this is the live chat. Basically, is leveraging off the iChat library. So yeah, we have our WebSocket function here from operator. Sorry, from RxJS WebSockets. Which leverages of the WebSocket operator here. So we pass in. So it either accepts a URL. It accepts a URL as that's just one of the parameters it can accept. You can open up and see other things it can accept. You can also accept the URL config source, which is you can be a string, or you can accept the subject config as well. So it always returns a WebSocket subject, which can be subscribed to, basically, which is exactly what we did here. So the rates, so basically we passed in the value we got, the subject we got from in here into the rates subscription, which we declared here. So on subscribing to it, we use the concat map to return that data to return that data sequentially, basically. So we added a delay in there to sort of allow the delay allows the chart to move and to flow in the way it's flowing. Basically, you can see how the chart adjusts over time. And in here you can see if you subscribe to the data, they will now push the data to the charts directly to the charts. So this is a rather simple example. They can be used for other complex things as well. Like I said, it can be used for live chat applications. I'm hoping to extend this series of examples into further in the future, hopefully, to for it to have more examples, basically. So long polling, you can use long polling. You can use to do like check an upload progress, or like I said, you can use to do check a cron job. Basically, I was still sort of writing the backend service for long polling. I had to write my own implementation of it eventually, but I couldn't do it on time, basically. But yeah, the way long polling works is that, like I said before, it creates an open connection. Then using you can use the take while operator, an operator like the take while operator, which is used here. You can use the take while operator to sort of check the status of what the data you are getting from the API. So let me explain the whole implementation here. So the idea is that every 4 seconds it make an API call, and based on what is returned, is that we stop making the API call or we don't make the API call again. So the only reason why we would want to stop the API call is if, for example, that cron job in this context is complete. So once we see that the API data we're getting from the backend service is complete, that's when the connection is closed. Is closed in that sense. So that is the whole essence of the long polling service, basically. Although each of these have their downside, basically. So you have to just know which one you want to pick at what in what instance. Like I said, short polling is good for prototyping, basically quick API calls or calls that don't require you to, or basically if you don't need to get live data very at close intervals. So if that's the case, the short polling is very used because of if you don't need to call at that short interval, then there's really no point using short polling. That's why most people go for either long polling or using web sockets, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much it, basically. Yeah.
Oh wow! Thank you very much, Afis. That was pretty awesome. I mean, this is your first talk, and well done.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you're ready to take some questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hey guys, questions for Rahman? Personally, I observed that I think when the implementation for the WebSocket, there was no request to the API at intervals. It's like an open connection, and then everything just starts popping in, and then the subscription gets to display the data.
Yeah, that's a leveraging of the WebSocket operator.
Okay.
That's what helps us to keep up that open connection. Like you cannot subscribe to the current. You not subscribe to the data that is entering there. Basically.
Okay. Can you kill that process? Can you kill the connection at a specific point, just the way you're doing with the take while? Can you kill that process, the WebSocket connection at when a certain condition is reached or something?
Yeah, it's a subscription. Like I said, it returns like a subject, and you're passing into the rates subscription, so you can easily unsubscribe based off any action you want. For example, if the user clicks on a button, you can easily unsubscribe to that subject, basically.
Okay. Okay. That's good. So, do we have questions?
I have
Go ahead, yeah.
I have a little bit a general question. It's about RxJS. I just want to know, how do you guys look for operators RxJS operators, I find it difficult for me to find the right operator for the right job. I don't know if there is any tricks or tips for that.
Well, I don't think there's a trick. So basically, I mean, taking for example, like this short presentation that Wally just did, if you want to keep a connection open, first of all, if you know about WebSockets, you might want to think, oh, let me search for RxJS WebSocket operator. But if you don't know about WebSocket, but you know the intention of what you want to do, I want to keep open connection, and then maybe you just use Google, and then you get options on what to use. And also, if you've done probably short courses on RxJS, you get familiarized with the different types of operators that are available and what they are used for. Yeah. So maybe running through, you might not be able to have everything all in your head at that instance, but I mean, you can always go back to the what's it called, documentation to get updated, or do your Google search. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, so basically just the experience.
Yeah, I think it's
With the
basically
work.
based. It's basically based off more experience and searching, basically.
Yeah.
So I just found out about WebSockets when I was about to do this presentation as well. So yeah, so it's basically off searching.
But the documentation also helps.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
well.
sometimes you just be there and then go and pick it up and just start reading all. Sometimes that's what I do. So that one helps, and you feel like, yeah, okay, maybe I might need this operator somewhere to make the work easier or faster. So the documentation helps.
Yeah.
I also wants to add that in the documentation there is the RxJS.dev website that have the operator decision tree, which, yeah, it was really helpful for me to start with picking up the right operator to start with, at least. So yeah, that's definitely a good place to start with, take a decision on your operators.
I just posted a site there that helps you decide on what operator to use.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking
Yeah.
about.
It's called operator decision tree.
Oh yeah.
So you just kind of, it's like a decision tree that asks you a series of questions, and from your answer to the questions, it kind of tells you the operator you need to use, something like that.
So that's quite cool. Thank you, Ahmed and Tito.
I didn't know
Leah,
this.
so I didn't know about that before too as well. Now, probably I know about the operators that I want to use and I use them. But now I think this is the right thing to use for this thing that you're doing. So I think
Yeah, thank
this is a
you.
good one.
Thank you, guys.
So any more questions for Hafiz? Maybe.
So I like to have an open question as well for everyone. I don't know if you've had a sort of live stuff you needed to do. So if you have any other like alternative solution that you have, so I would really love to hear about it. So yeah.
Rob, do you have a question or you want to answer Rahman's?
No, just ask if he can post the demo so that we can see for ourselves the differences on the.
Sure. I'll send my GitHub link shortly after the call.
All right.
Speaking of operators, there's one custom operator made in a form of library, which is public. So I don't know. Let me just post the link here. What it does is give you the option of having a pending status and error status, the value itself. Do you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
So I think it's suspensify or something. That's the operator's name, but I've posted it in the chat. So what it does is, like, it exposes you. So you place the operator in the pipe, and then it will expose the observable in a form of an object that has a value, an error, a pending, and then a finalized state. So you could actually track it with your component. I've never used it before, but I saw it, and I might be trying it sometime soon, because sometimes it's very difficult to,
It's
look
like
at the
what
state.
this NGRX let does. So
Yes.
you have access to the error and everything about it.
Yeah, you have access to the error, the pending state. This one adds the pending state. I don't know if Rx does that, but this one actually adds the pending state.
Great. Oh,
So,
wow.
so that one you can be using that one to control your loader and stuff.
That's cool.
That's good. Thanks for sharing, Stephen.
Cool.
So to answer your question, Afis, personally, I've not actually had this scenario where I had to consume live data or streaming data. Yeah, I don't think I have had personally for me.
But if you're told to like build like some like a live scores app or something, how do you think this best solution would be? Do you think using WebSockets and long pooling?
Probably a WebSocket, because that is generally
For me, that's
WebSocket.
the only thing I know.
Yeah, that's the only thing that
That's the only thing I feel like is the best. So
approach.
yeah, it's the best approach. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
So short, long, because I was thinking of using these aggregators, these mobile money aggregators, to actually check when payments are done and stuff like that. And it's best to use WebSocket at that side. I don't know. For me, that's the only, because I mean, timing and going back with what do you call it, checking durations and all that. For me, it's a lot. So I'll rather go for WebSocket. But sometimes you have no option. Sometimes you are not the person who actually did the back end. So
That's what I was going to. It all depends on the back end developer. To be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, it depends on the back end developer.
But I think I'm muted.
Okay, I was saying that I have an announcement. I don't know if Lias is still here. Probably before we still have like 21 more minutes, which is a lot of time. Bonnie was not able to make it to this wonderful event. I think she's currently occupied, and so she has some wonderful announcements she wanted me to share with you guys. So first is that there's currently a discount on the live events that we normally have, expert live event that we normally have. So, and there's a form which I will share shortly as well. So if you want to have access to that, to those events in the expert live channel, you can just fill this form, and then I think it's open for you to specify how much you're willing to pay or something like that. I'm not so sure. I won't open it myself, but I trust Bonnie. She's probably doing the right thing for us. So if you're interested, you can do that. And then most importantly, she has 2 openings for senior front-end engineers, senior Angular developers. One is remote, and one is one involves relocation to Europe. So, and she asked me to tell you guys to come with your jacket if you're coming. So if you're interested in the remote or the relocation stuff, I think this is a great opportunity. Just hit up Bonnie, and I know she will, tell you what to do. Hope that's cool.
Yeah, that's good news for me.
Yeah, that's good. So that's it. Lias, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for the offer. I was looking for something like this these days. Thank you.
That's good. Welcome.
Good.
So,
Man, thanks a million. That was a great one. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yes.
So guys, any opening in terms of any open conversation that you want to talk about while maybe around RxJS? I mean, though we don't have Sander here, maybe people like Rob can unleash the little Sander inside of them to help us out.
Thunder beats me, hands down.
But how does the RX let work? I don't know if there's Tagai has something also called I think Tulet or something like that. That also, I don't know if it does the same thing.
So it's actually NGRX specific. So if you're using NGRX, normally it was recently released, I think this year. What we normally
Was it specifically done for the component store?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, normally when you want to access for instance, you create a view model and then you want to, retrieve data from the view model. Normally you use ng4. I think ngif. You use ngif and then you use an alias.
Okay.
Exactly. Now, because you have NGRX you have access to the error. You're able to, do more than just accessing that variable. Then you can check the errors. If there's an error, you can assess it, just like what you shared with the library that I shared previously. Yeah. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're using Tiger, I think it comes with something like that also. So you just have, and then you can tell what to do with it when it's. I don't know whether I'm not sure it tracks a pending state.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe a pending. It depends on what you want to do anyway. But there's also a Tulet.
Okay.
Have you guys tried Tiger yet?
Nah, I know you've become addicted to Tiger. I haven't.
Oh my goodness.
I haven't.
Anyway, that's cool.
Oops. Rahman, you're still sharing your screen. Okay. So guys, should we call it a day? Or you guys have more stuff to hit us up with? Maybe I should play a little role of Oyemade today, giving you guys updates on what's up next. Tomorrow we have Peter Bacon Darwin, who's coming to give us a talk on JavaScript generators, and it will be happening on the Expert live events channel. So I mean, if you guys can afford it, or if you can go through the form that Bonnie shared, you can probably look through and see what you can do. I think there are really some very interesting events going on there. Like I attended some myself and super cool. Also, we have Storybook Office Hours tomorrow. Same Expert Life events, all happening there. And then on Friday, we have the Friday social. So where we get to unwind and, party, drink, and talk about anything. So basically, that's it.
Well, for me, I can, if you want something outside of this, I can talk about Spider-Man.
Okay, let me say we have officially come to the end of the event, and then we can leave it open till, because we have like extra 15 minutes more. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for, always coming around to support our presenters and support the community. Really appreciate. And thank you, Rahman, for coming to do your first talk with us. Should I say we are honored, or was the right term to use? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about my voice. I had like cough and sore throat, so